Now joining me, former offensive lineman in the league. Now he is a host on the Sirius XM dial, ESPN analyst, the great Ross Tucker. Ross, Zach Gelb here, Shovio.com. Thank you for joining me, and how are you this evening?
I'm doing fantastic, Zach. My pleasure.
Thank you for coming on. Enjoy the spot right here. And I know you have Go Big Recruiting. We'll get to that in just a little bit, the interesting work you do on that great site. But the Giants this week, last week, they were playing the Washington Redskins, and a very controversial play happened. Eli Manning went to the line, and he said, "Rocket, rocket." And that means an audible call for the New York Giants. The Washington Redskins players knew that, and they had an interception off that. You played offensive line in this league for many years. Have you ever changed your audibles within the last 5 years of your playing career, or did another team ever know your audible calls?
Yeah, I mean, if you were going up against a guy that you had played with or that knew some of your calls, you might change up some of them. Because if you think about it, Zach, you can actually really use that against them. In other words, I know you're referring to Barry Cofield and the Ryan Kerrigan play. If you think about it, the Giants could have used some of the calls, Rocket and what he thought it was going to be. They could have done the opposite and really screwed up Barry Cofield and really screwed up the whole Redskins team. So, yeah, there are times when you would change things up. And I know, and I played for 5 different teams, and, I can remember one time I got cut by the Redskins on a Tuesday and picked up on waivers by the Cowboys on a Wednesday. And one of the first things I did was go to the defensive coaches for the Cowboys and explain as much as I could about the Redskins offense. I mean, this is pro football, and your only allegiance is on the team that is paying you at that point and the team that you're employed by, and you're going to do whatever you possibly can to help them win. That's football.
Now, I'm just wondering, let's say when you get cut from a team, do you right away, if you're not in the building, go, or if you have a feeling that you know you're going to get cut and copy that playbook just in case if, let's say, the Miami Dolphins were to pick you up in the next week, like a Patriots player got cut, the Dolphins picked him up. Do players ever copy that playbook so they could get an advantage going into the free agency market?
No, I've never heard of a guy copying a playbook, and no team. They wouldn't pick up a guy off the street or sign him as a free agent just because he had, part of the other team's plays. I mean, the reality is that most teams already have a really good idea of what plays the other teams run, and it's not like they're in the huddle to be able to hear the call. I mean, the only thing that helps you out on possibly is line of scrimmage calls, and teams can change that all the time. I mean, look at the Dallas Cowboys against the New York Jets. The Jets picked up Andrew Sadeo off of the Cowboys practice squad after they cut him. And so as a result, as Tony Romo had said, they changed some of their calls just because they didn't want the other team to know. I mean, that's fairly common. I mean, guys switch for 5 teams. I mean, guys switch teams all the time.
The Eagles could talk the talk, but the question is, can they walk the walk? They had a very impressive victory over the Rams last week. And the Eagles' offensive line, they do have a lot of holes. And the big question is, they will, if they can, protect Michael Vick. Because if they protect Michael Vick, the Eagles are going to be a dominant team this year. But if Vick gets rattled and if he doesn't find the way to hold number 7 up, it's going to be a rough year for the Eagles. What do you think the Eagles can improve on that offensive line?
Well, I think the biggest thing will just be familiarity, continuity amongst the guys playing at different spots. Once they get comfortable with each other, I think they're only going to get better. I mean, they're young, but they're all very willing and they're all very talented. So I'm not that concerned about it in the long term. And quite frankly, I thought it would hurt them more in the short term. Some of the warts we say about the Eagles in terms of their linebackers and their run defense and their offensive line came to fruition, but their studs, Deshaun and LaShawn and Michael Vick, I mean, they were able to overcome that and really beat the St. Louis Rams pretty handily. But also keep in mind, Steven Jackson had 56 yards on 2 carries, so you have to wonder what he might have been able to do if he had played the entire game.
What do you foresee this week for Vick and the Eagles? Does Vick return to Georgia, and does he get it done?
I don't think so. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he did, but I would find it very hard to believe that the Falcons could play that poorly 2 weeks in a row. I mean, they were 13-3 last year And all they did was add Julio Jones and add Ray Edwards and get better for the most part. I think that what happened to them Sunday in Chicago was an anomaly. I think they're going to bounce back in a major way in a big spot. They've been so good at home under Matt Ryan. I also think that there's the potential that Michael Vick gets a little bit too worked up for that game. You know, it's a Sunday night game. It's back in Atlanta. He's been there before, but not as the starter. And maybe he tries to do a little bit too much in the way of running the ball or forcing the ball in. I like the Falcons quite a bit.
We're talking to Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman. And Ross, Dan Koppen went down this week. How do you see Dan Connolly replacing the longtime New England Patriots center?
He'll be fine. I thought he did pretty good on Monday night. He's been there for several years now. New England does a better job than anybody in terms of rotating their guys, making sure that they are position versatile like Connolly is. I was thoroughly impressed at all offensive line play. Brian Waters had been there like 8 days. Solder, they had to move to right tackle because of Bulmer's back. I mean, really, really impressive what the Patriots offensive line. They'll be fine. The concern right now would be if other guys start to go down. That would be what I would be worried about because now their depth is really being tested. I think their starting five is fine. It's second-line guys they need to worry about in case somebody's injuries start to stack on top of each other.
Talk about the rookie from Colorado and the Patriots' offensive performance this week. That Patriots' offensive line got a lot of time for Tom Brady, and that did help him get to those 517 yards.
Well, I think Nate Solder was the most impressive player of the game. I mean, he played left tackle at Colorado. I thought he was up and down in the preseason. He was good, quick, hard sets. He was physical, and his hand placement was textbook. I mean, I came away from that game really, really impressed with Solder. In fact, he was my Rookie of the Week on my ESPN.com Football Today podcast.
We're talking to Ross Tucker, and Ross, Wayne Hunter was just obliterated by DeMarcus Ware, one of the best pass rushers in the league. But an interesting decision by head coach Jason Garrett. In the second half, he moved DeMarcus Ware to the other side of the line to go up against the likes of DeBrickashaw Ferguson. Why did Garrett make that move when Wayne Hunter was getting destroyed by DeMarcus Ware?
Well, that's not Jason Garrett's call. That's Rob Ryan, the defensive coordinator, and I really don't have an answer for that. I don't know exactly what he was thinking or why he did that. I don't know. I'm at a loss for that one. You'd have to ask him.
And Ross, I know you were very closely affected to 9/11. You were playing with the Washington Redskins in 2001. We just had the 10-year anniversary. Can we get a few words on 9/11 and your experience from it?
Yeah, I just remember being in my apartment when it happened. I just made the team, and my wife's girlfriend at the time, wife now, was in one of the buildings, and she was fine. She actually a little earlier in the morning and went across the street, so she wasn't in the buildings when they were actually hit. I can remember being and hearing about the Pentagon. One of those things in life. You remember exactly where you were when it happened.
We're talking to Ross Tucker, and Ross, the MLB would not let the New York Metropolitans wear the NYPD and the FDNY hats to honor the first responders. If you were an NFL player still playing in this week, and Roger Goodell, who didn't do this, Goodell handled it great, Bud Selig not so much, and Goodell came to you and said, Ross, I don't want you wearing cleats to commemorate 9/11. Would you say to the commissioner, you know what, I don't care, I'm going to go out there and do what I want to do?
I don't know. It probably depends on how much the fine would be. I mean, if the fine was too much, I would show my patriotism in another way because I don't know. I got a kid coming. I need to put that money in the right account.
That's great stuff as we're talking to Ross Tucker. And Ross, on the way out, tell me a little bit more about Go Big Recruiting. I was looking at the site last night. I actually put the link, sent it to some of my friends in high school. Some of them play offensive line. I love the link. It's great stuff.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's really simple. We just think that we are the most efficient way to get your video and information in the hands of college coaches online. And the key thing is, Zach, is actually know when it's been viewed. You can send it to Rutgers, Syracuse, whatever. It's football, lacrosse, baseball, basketball, pretty much any sport you have.
Ross, just tell us once again about Go Big Recruiting. Just want to get the word out to my audience.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Zach. Sorry, I'm driving. You're not sponsored by AT&T, are you?
No, we're only sponsored by Peerless Boilers, so there's no cell phone issues right here.
All right, well, I was about to have AT&T. I didn't want to blow up your show. Don't worry about it. My connection went on my cell phone, but yeah, GoBigRecruiting.com, man. I mean, it's going really, really well. We have a tremendous amount of kids actually in Long Island and all over the country that use us. Really excited about it. If you have any interest in playing any sport in college at all, you got to at least go check it out. www.gobigrecruiting.com.
Ross, thanks so much for the time. Let's do it again real soon. I appreciate it.
Take care.